Oh, you got to turn your speakers down. Did you hear the echo?
You're a rascal. That's what I have to say about that.
Oh, that's not a rascal. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Uncle Marv podcast. I am here with, I know her as Pamela Green, but she has a different last name because she's married now. And the picture that you saw as we did the intro, not relevant at all.
Well, it was back then.
It was back, but it was an interesting thing. So you didn't think I had that picture, did you?
No. How did you have that?
Do you remember us taking that picture?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Do you remember what event it was?
I thought it was for like one of the spring dances or something like that.
Can't say the word dance. Not back then.
Spring party?
I don't the spring formal or spring dinner or something, but
spring dinner.
I think it was homecoming.
Okay.
So Pam and I went to Palm Beach Atlantic College back in the day. It is now a university.
Yes.
And back then, there was no dancing allowed at the school.
No. And
I can attest to that because I got shut down at a weekend block party that we did at, I think it was, was it Hogue? It wasn't Hogue Hall. It was Hogue Hall, yes. the two-story one where, and I had brought my speakers in from, over from Kathy Dorm, and we had the balcony rocking, and somebody from the school showed up and said we had to stop playing the music.
I remember that. Yeah, I do.
So, all right. So the picture was from, I think it was from homecoming, and I don't remember which year.
Okay.
And I'm sad to say, and partly because I think one of the things that I did back then was, I don't think I actually officially dated anybody during my years at Palm Beach Atlantic. It was something where, hey, going to the homecoming? Yeah. Okay. Why don't we sit together?
Yeah.
And then what they do is they grab you and say, hey, how about a picture?
Mm-hmm. But did we just meet or did we actually go together? I thought we went together, but maybe I'm wrong.
I'm sure I picked you up in my beater of a car. You would remember which one.
I think I remember that too. I don't remember which one, but I'm pretty sure that's how we did it. Okay. We didn't just show up and, hey, you want to sit with me?
Wasn't that horrible?
No.
Well, we had to have, because we're actually kind of matching. I'm wearing a pink shirt with a pink tie.
Yeah.
And you've got pink in your dress. And there's a corsage. I'm sure I bought you the corsage.
I'm sure you did too. I'm sure I did.
Because I am a gentleman like that.
Yes, you are. Very much. So when was it that you came to visit in Tallahassee? I know you came up for business. It's been about 2 years ago.
That's probably about right. I still had my client in Tallahassee, so it had to have been 2018 or 2017.
Okay, yeah. So I was thinking like 2, maybe 3. I was thinking more like 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's when I saw you there, and I met your family, your lovely husband, your kitties.
Well, you met Chris back at PBA.
Did I?
Yes.
He went to PBA?
He did not go to PBA.
But how did I? Okay, tell me this story.
The summer, when I tell you, you'll remember.
Okay.
So the summer that I graduated in '89, there was like an alumni or some kind of prime rib dinner at the school, and I invited Chris. And so our first date was he came and had dinner. I bought a couple of tickets and I asked him, I said, so, hey, do you want to go with me? And he's like, sure. So, and then I used to babysit for an attorney, Gigi and Jim Eisenberg, that lived in Palm Beach, along the intercoastal. I babysat for him, and that was our first date. We went to a dinner, and you met Chris. You guys met each other because he knows who you are.
Okay.
So
when you say the summer, was it the summer before the 88, 89 year, or the summer after?
The summer after I graduated.
So I hadn't left yet to go up to North Carolina.
No. I want to say it must have been like in June, maybe in June.
What kind of event would we have after? What would we have had after graduation?
It was some kind of dinner. I just remember that because I didn't meet Chris until July of '89.
Wow.
And then we were married in June of '90, not even a year later. So I know that it was late July that there was some kind of a dinner or get together or something on campus. And you were there because you and Chris met.
Wow.
You think that's funny?
You don't remember? I don't remember. I'm sorry. Is he there?
I didn't have that picture, but I remembered it. So are you finding that as you're doing these podcasts that you remember certain things and the other person you're talking to remembers things,
absolutely,
but they're not necessarily the same thing?
Absolutely.
That's how it goes.
Yes. There are people that remember things that I have no clue what they're talking about. And of course, that's easy to do. Because remember, I was student government president, so it wasn't like I could just hide on campus.
Everybody knew you.
I couldn't hide anyway. There weren't very many of us around.
Well, but not only that, your personality, like you just know everybody. You're very, very friendly, very outgoing. And so it stands to reason why you're SGA president and everybody knew Marvin. B as in bzzz. Do you remember that?
Okay. I've only had that happen since elementary school.
Yeah, but nobody like Pam Green did it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right? There it is.
There it is. There it is. All right. So I don't even know how to go back and talk about some of this stuff because, again, I'm trying to remember when we actually met. I didn't realize that we spent all 4 years together. I thought you were a year or so ahead of me for all this time. And then here we are. We graduate together.
I was on the 5-year program. So I got there in the fall of '86.
Okay.
Oh, 85.
No, it had to be 85 is what you're talking. I got there in 86.
Yeah. Because
I got there in 85, the fall of 85.
Yes. And graduated in 89.
So you got there the fall of 84?
Yes, I think so. Yes. Because I changed my major 3 times. Yeah.
Why would you do that?
Because I didn't know what I wanted to do. That's why I never went to college.
Why did you? Okay, what did you start with?
Well, first, I didn't go to school until I was 23. So I was
I didn't
already
ask that question.
I know, but I'm telling you. So I was really, I do remember I took American history or world history and I made a D and my roommate made an A. Her name was Sabrina. And she was an A student, but she was also 18. She just got out of high school. Anyway.
She was still in study mode.
Oh yeah. I had to relearn how to do that. So first I went in as undecided and then I went into, don't laugh, but I went into music. And then I was almost going to quit.
That I remember.
After the second year, I was going to leave. And then I just started talking to people and praying about it and went into education. And that was exactly where I was supposed to be. That was exactly what I was supposed to do. So it
All
took
right.
me a little while to figure it out. What was your major? Because I forgot.
Business
Communication
administration.
administration.
Business administration the entire time.
That's right. Okay, now I do remember.
And then I had to add on, I think it was, I minored in like mathematics and religious studies because I had so many extra credits in those areas,
Mm-hmm.
which
Yeah.
was stupid because they ran out of math classes.
Well, because you probably took everything you needed in high school. See, I was a Bachelor of Arts and I did all my math in high school and I didn't even have to take any because I took analytic geometry and trigonometry in my senior year of high school. So I didn't have to take any math when I got
All right.
to PBA.
I think I took trigonometry in junior high. I'm
Mm,
sorry, I'm not junior, junior year
of high school.
of
Yeah.
high school. Yeah. And I
Mhm.
took some weird class in senior year because when I got to PBA, I remember I had to take, I even though I took calculus, I ended up taking calculus 1, 2, and 3 and some weird like linear algebra or abstract algebra or something. I mean, who needs those classes?
Business administrators? I don't know.
All right. So let's go back now. Since you brought it up, what did you do in between high school and college? Because obviously we never talked about that because I have no clue who you were before PBA.
Well, I graduated from high school when I was 18, and then within a year later, my mom died. I was 19.
Oh,
And so at that point, my brother and I moved in at the time because I didn't have any place to go. I moved in with my boyfriend and his family for like a month or so, maybe 2 months, while I saved up money, to move into an apartment. And so then for like 3 years, I lived in an apartment, and then I went to live with my dad in Arkansas for about a year. And that was when, while I was up in Arkansas, my grandfather had passed away. And at that time, part of the other reason that I didn't go to school was because I didn't know what I wanted to do and I didn't have the money. But my granddad passed away and was very generous. And there was a trust set up for my brother and I. So I was able to use part of those funds to go to school. So while I was up in Arkansas, I, wanted to go back to West Palm Beach because that's where I grew up, and filled out all the admission paperwork and came back down there and lived on campus and everything because my brother was married and I didn't have a roommate or any place to live, so I lived on campus for all 5 years that I was in school, with the exception of the Christmas breaks and summers. I would move in with Larry, my brother, and his wife. So,
all right.
like, kind of nutshell.
Okay. I'm so sorry I didn't know any of that.
Well, we probably talked about it, but it's been how long ago? 30 years?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Hey, you're from Satellite Beach.
Yes,
I
I
remembered,
am.
right?
Yes. See, that's the
I
thing.
remember.
Everybody remembers where I'm from. I don't know why. And why did that just pop? Why did that just pop up into your head?
Oh, I don't know why. Maybe because we were talking about where I was from and what I did. And I just remember that you were from Satellite Beach. And I know there were a lot of people from Satellite Beach that you came to PBA that you knew before you came to PBA, right?
So, yes, it actually was interesting because a lot of people came from Satellite Beach, my school, and First Baptist in Atlantic, my church.
Yes.
Steve Stanford and Greg Jones came from the church. The Pinkley girls came from Satellite.
Yes.
Who else came from Satellite? I think Alan Stafford came from Satellite, even though he was a year or two behind me. There were a lot of people that came from that area.
And
Now, a lot of them left. They didn't finish at PBA. They went elsewhere. But yeah, it was.
well, that's the thing about it. Even as small as PBA was, every summer at the end, unless there were a handful of people that you stayed connected to, that might have been the last time you saw them. They may not, like you just said, they may have left during that summer and never came back.
Right.
So that happens in college, I think.
It does. I think what happens is you go in your first year, you figure out, if you can be by yourself and on your own.
Mm-hmm.
Some people realize, okay, I miss home and I want to go back, because it's not like, for us now, Satellite Beach was only 2+ hours from Palm Beach Atlantic.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the PBA people were local, but a lot of people, there were people that came from the north, like Connecticut and Jersey and
Jamaica. I had
Jamaica.
a roommate that was from Jamaica.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, there were people that came from the Midwest who came simply because Palm Beach Atlantic was in Florida near the beach.
That's exactly correct.
I remember a girl, I don't remember her name. There was a girl that came in. She literally would take the train. She would take the train from West Palm to wherever and I keep wanting, I don't know if it was Connecticut, Rhode Island, or somewhere there. She would literally take the train on a Friday to go home to visit her parents, spend like a day, and ride the train back.
Really?
And I was like, how can you be on a train for so long? I wish I remembered her name, but those are the types of stories where, what you do to go to school.
Yeah.
And the only reason I went was because I had been accepted into Florida State, realized I wasn't going to be able to play football, and didn't think I wanted to go that far away from home, because at that time, Satellite Beach was 7 or 8 hours from Tallahassee.
Mm-hmm.
Big college, and something just steered me to PBA. Although my mom, go ahead.
It wasn't was it the Christian aspect, or just it was a smaller college and closer to home?
It may have played a little part in that. So the Christian thing for me wasn't a driving force. And you should know that by how much I got in trouble.
Well, not bad trouble. It was, you were just having fun.
No, we didn't,
it was innocent.
burn down anything.
Yeah.
It was stupid stuff, like, like letting your underwear show underneath your shorts. I got pulled out of the cafeteria line for that.
Are you kidding? Breaking curfew. Breaking curfew.
Yeah, breaking curfew.
Mm-hmm. It's time to get back to your dorm. No, it's okay. I'll get there when I get there.
Well, and remember, Kathy dorm was off campus.
Yes, it was.
It was like a mile away. So, if we're, visiting the girls at Wayenburg,
yes,
it was a long trek back to Kathy dorm. And you either had to have a bike or a car, because you didn't want to be walking between the school and Kathy dorm, because something might have happened.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's right. Did you like living in Kathy dorm?
No.
Hey, they got some really nice places to live on campus now.
I'm sure they do.
Top notch, I think.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I have to go back and do a campus visit. I'm going to see if I know anybody there. I want to do a podcast from the school.
Yeah, you said you were going to do that.
Well, I say a lot of things, but I got to know somebody there. None of the people are there that I know.
Well,
Dean
interesting.
Mack, Philip Rothschild. Interesting. Well, no. You know somebody?
Well, I do, but I have a fun fact for you, and I could get a connection for you.
Oh.
So I work at Celebration Baptist Church as the preschool director, and our administrative assistant, she and her husband met at PBA and got married. and
At
their
PBA?
younger daughter, well, not at PBA, but they got married because they went to school. They met at PBA, and
People
then they
did
got
that.
married and
I know several people that did that.
Well, that's true. And, now where First Baptist is, it used to be across the street that they had that open place. They'd have concerts and
Yes.
stuff like that. It's all gone, But anyway, their daughter Riley is coming to PBAU in August. So if you wanted to know about Riley, then I could at least get you connected. And her dad is
somebody I should know.
You wouldn't know him, but I'm just saying, like, if you needed or wanted to meet somebody that was going to be going to PBAU, then I could kind of make the connection for you.
Okay, but do they have influence? Can they get me up the ladder?
Oh, I don't know about that. I mean, I could ask. I could ask these.
I can't just roll up with some student,
Not a white one either.
Not anymore. Couldn't do it back then either.
No, you couldn't. But guess what?
But I did.
But that didn't stop you.
No, sure didn't.
But you know what? I mean, aren't you friends with Philip Rothschild on Facebook?
Yeah, but he's not doing anything at PBA. Isn't he like in Missouri or?
Yeah, they're up north. I mean,
and they're on tour all the time. Jennifer, she's, that's who I should get on the show. She's famous.
She is very famous. An author, Bible study leader, worshiper. I mean, yeah, she's. I can't tell you the number of times that I've seen her, and she remembered me. Because obviously she's legally blind, but. In fact, it was just like within the last 5 years, she came to a church here in Tallahassee, and I got to spend some time with her. And I said, "It's Pam Green from PBA." She's like, "Oh my gosh!" So she's got a really great memory. I've seen her over the last 30 years. I've probably seen her like 4 or 5 times. Believe it or not, attended different leadership seminars underneath her. So.
Yep, I did reach out to Philip.
You did.
And asked him to be on the show, and he said that he would, but that he's, busy doing their tour and stuff. And, I want to get Philip on because, Philip and I actually come from the same area. He actually was in the Palm Bay area, which is close to Satellite Beach. I did not know that until, I didn't know that until like the 3rd year at PBA.
Well, see all these things you're learning? It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. We used to beat him in softball. So you're right. It is amazing how small the world is. It was, something of having all those people at college. A lot of my high school friends, most of them went to Florida or Florida State. Some went to Miami. And one of the interesting things, hang on, I got to write a note here because I just remembered something. So my senior year at PBA, when I was SGA president, there were actually 4 classmates of mine from high school that were student government presidents at wherever they were at. And I've got to go back and remember all of them. I think one, her name was Trisha at FSU, Kevin at like FIU or FIT or something, and D. Thorne at Stetson. And there was, I think, one other. So there were a bunch of us from my high school that we were all student government president at the same time. That was pretty cool.
That is very, very cool. Yeah, and you better write it down so that you don't forget.
I know, I just did. Although I got to remember some names because I know Trisha, Kevin, and D. Thorne. Catherine D. Thorne, that's who that is. I should know her. She lived around the corner from me growing up.
Well, and I know you're doing these podcasts to reconnect with friends from, PBA and stuff. There's one teacher that I don't even know where she is, but Donna Thornton was head of the elementary education department when I was there. And I don't even know how to because Anna Keith, did you know the name Brian Keith he was the minister of music at First Baptist of West Palm. Does that name ring a bell by any chance?
It
Or
does.
Bill Keith, excuse me, Bill Keith.
Bill Keith.
Well, his wife Anna taught voice lessons. Well, when I got up here to Tallahassee, when I first attended Celebration, that's where Jennifer and Philip did attend. But then there's also another mutual friend of mine that had lessons from Anna Keith from West Palm. So when you talk about it being a small world, it really is a small world.
Yes, it is. Let me tell you how small it is. How long have you been at kinder school?
I have worked off and on. I've worked there for about 22 years.
Okay. So just to catch everybody up to speed, you are the director of kinder school, which is part of Celebration Baptist, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. How long have you been director?
Oh, I've just finished 11 years. I've worked there for the last 22 years, but the director I just finished 11 years.
So my sister attended FSU in Tallahassee and was trying to get my nephew into kinder school. That was one that she looked at. Mm-hmm.
Seriously?
Yep. She was funny when she was looking at the announcement for the upcoming podcast. She texted me. She's like, "How was your friend at kinder school?" I said, So she started telling me. She goes, "Yeah, that's a school I looked at." I didn't ask her what happened, but I don't know if there's an application process and she got, eliminated. I have no idea.
No, there's no application. It's just, if you can get a spot. So we typically have waiting lists in all of our classrooms. So it's, if registration happens every January, and we fill up fast. So I'm thinking I was kind to her. I'm sure I was.
I don't know if I'm going to assume that she didn't speak to you if you were the director at the time. I'll have to ask her.
Okay.
My sister has stories like that all the time where she runs into people that I know.
Of course.
That stuff.
Is she still here in Tallahassee?
No.
Okay. How old is your nephew?
So I have two. I have one that's I think he just turned 17, and my other one is 4.
Okay.
So
if she had reached out to the kinder school for a spot for her child, it's been within the last 4 years or 3 years. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been 3 years ago, I think, is when she was still in Tallahassee.
Okay. And I'll tell you one thing is that we typically start at 18 months old, not at 1 year of age. There. Okay. So that also, and we're not full time, and we're not even full day. So our program is strictly a preschool, Monday through Friday, like a 9 to 1. So we're not even all day, and we follow the Leon County calendar. So if somebody needs all day, every day, that's sometimes that can be a deterrent for families that need a full-time program.
So maybe she didn't even consider it once she found that out, because
maybe, yeah,
she's a working mom, so she would have needed all day.
Where does she live now? Does she live close to you, or?
Yes. Yeah, she's like 25 minutes away.
You kind of hesitated there for a minute.
Because I had done so well at keeping the distance. One of the things I enjoyed was being able to have family just far enough away so that there could be no pop-ins. Well,
and I remember that about you when we were at school, that not that you didn't love your family, but you were okay if they weren't right there near you, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is how great it was with my family. So my first year going down to PBA, I can't remember how many times I talked to my mom from the time I enrolled until Thanksgiving. But I remember riding home for Thanksgiving, showing up, Mom opens the door and she's like, "What are you doing here?" So that's my family. Like, nice to see you, Mom.
Yeah.
I need my clothes washed.
Yeah. From all those months, you didn't do any laundry?
Oh, I did laundry. Come on.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, because that's typically the way that it works with guys. But you made me think, because I have a picture on my phone of Jennifer and I.
Oh,
Yeah, I'll have to find it.
we'll
And
have
I
to do
guess
a better
maybe
setup. So you have to send it to me, and then
I'll email it to you.
okay. Yeah, don't text it to those numbers you tried earlier.
No, because they're not cell phones.
No.
I didn't know that. But when I find that picture, I will email it to you. How does that sound?
That works.
And that way you'll have that, and you can use it for Philip so that you can make sure that he will definitely do a podcast with you.
All right. Not like it's going to be blackmail or anything, but I'll try.
It's just so you can one up. That's all.
Okay. So, all right. So I'm trying to remember. Now, we didn't even talk about your journey from PBA in West Palm to Tallahassee. I think I asked you when I visited. I'm like, how did you get to Tallahassee? Because I don't think that there's a direct route. Is there?
Well, there is a direct route.
Okay.
So, like I said that I had met Chris, my husband, in July of '89, and we dated. He worked for the state. He worked for banking and finance. He was a bank auditor, and he graduated from FSU, got a OPS, or I guess a full-time job down in Delray Beach. And that's where I met him, was at a Brinks party outside. It was a picnic or whatever. I went with a friend, he went with a friend, and we met. Armored car robbery, he said.
I was going to say, you met at a Brinks truck?
No, it was at a picnic. It was at a Brinks picnic. So, what?
Why don't you let Chris tell the story? It sounds like he knows it.
Well, he's brushing his teeth. Yeah, he actually better at telling stories than I am. But so we dated off and on, and then he got a promotion. Well, so anyway, when we first met, he would have to travel like every weekend because that's just what he did with part of his job. Then he got a promotion to Tallahassee, and that happened in January. And so I was teaching at was it South Olive Elementary School in West Palm. And so I really wanted to finish out the school year. So I finished out the school year. We got engaged, I guess, maybe February, March, and got married in June. So I was living in West Palm. Chris was living here in Tallahassee, and we got married in Panama City because that's where most of his family was. So that's how I got to Tallahassee. And I've been here now 30. In fact, in about 3 weeks will be our 30th wedding anniversary. So I've been in Tallahassee that long. Been here 30 years.
Well, congrats.
And I love it. So that's the condensed version.
That's fine. That's about as much as I'll remember.
If that much.
until we talk another 2 or 3 years from now. But that's why I'm doing these podcasts, so that we can stay in touch and do things more often. So let me do this. Let me take a moment right now to explain the podcast thing to you.
And then when you finish, I want you to tell me some of the people that you've already had an opportunity to connect with. Okay. Cause that's a question I have for you. And I'm assuming, since I know you're kind of running the podcast, but I can ask you some questions too, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You're allowed one question.
One? Okay.
So let me first start by saying Pam Green is the reason. Actually, I'm going to mute you because I don't want you like chiming in while I say this. So Pam Green is the person that I blame the most for getting me onto the Facebook.
That's right.
I just unmuted you so you can chime in. Many years ago, I think it was 2013, when Palm Beach Atlantic was having a reunion and they were only posting the information. What? Is that not it?
No, was it 2013? Has it been that long?
I don't remember.
Well, you have to look at your Facebook page to see when you joined.
Okay, well, that's not right.
You don't have to do it now, but I'm just saying.
But you're the whole reason I got onto the Facebook, and the whole reason that I signed up to go to the Palm Beach Atlantic reunion. And you gave me this speech about, I don't know, let's just say duty and honor and something like that.
And then I didn't show up.
And then you didn't show. You bailed on the reunion.
I'm sorry.
So,
I don't know.
It's okay. It's all right. But that's one of the reasons I wanted to invite you on the podcast, and you're one of the early guests. So the podcast basically is something that has probably been in an evolutionary state. When I first left satellite and went to Palm Beach Atlantic, I didn't really keep in touch with my classmates. One, I was busy. Two, I was moving on to bigger and better things, I thought. But, life changes. So one of the jobs that I did, and this is going to shock some people because most of my friends don't know a lot about what Palm Beach Atlantic was. Yes, it was a private college, but it was closely affiliated with the First Baptist Church and the Southern Baptist Convention, the whole thing there. Mm-hmm. One of the jobs that I did was to be a youth minister at Good Shepherd United Methodist Church. Did you know that?
I did not know that. While you were going to PBA.
Well, I think it was my second summer at PBA. I was the high school youth director, and a guy by the name of Albert Rossa DeVita was the junior high youth director. And I started a thing called The Paper. And it was basically a publication that we did every Sunday. And it was basically for the kids because, most churches, do their bulletins and all their stuff for the adults, and they'll kind of scribble some stuff down at the bottom for the kids. Well, one of the things that I and Albert wanted to do was, make the kids excited to be there. So I created The Paper, and it was basically a calendar of events, and we did spotlights on kids, and we did a whole bunch of stuff. And then I evolved that into my communication for other things, mainly junior achievement, when I was doing the national conference. And, the junior achievement conference was 1 week a year. And we started to build bonds with other counselors at the conference. And then we would have groups of kids, 50 kids that we would, be stuck with, basically 23 hours a day, 7 days for a week. And, we kind of kept in touch, with a few kids and stuff like that. So I started this newsletter to stay in touch with all those people. And it, again, did spotlights on friends and talked about adventures. And if we ever had parties like, a happy Halloween party, the JA Midwest Adventure, we did a Daytona trip, and I would post all of this stuff. And that's how people kept in touch. Well, then, as you get older, things change, and I stopped doing the paper. The last official paper was the announcement of my wedding to Miss Kim. So that was many years ago.
How many years ago?
We are coming up on 18.
Congratulations.
So for many years, people were like, where's Marvin? Where's Marvin? Why aren't you on Facebook? Thank you, Pam. I'm on Facebook. Don't show up at the reunion, Pam. Thank you.
Yeah, but look at all the good it's done for you. See, aren't you so glad?
Yeah.
I know underneath the fact that you always try to give me a hard time about it, I know it's because you're actually really glad that I got you on Facebook. So
There's a lot of good that comes with the Facebook. There's a lot of crap that comes with it, but there's a lot of good, mostly good.
Yeah, mostly good.
So as part of my job, I do tech stuff, and the tech community that I'm involved with does podcasting is a big thing. So I took over a podcast 4 years ago, and it's been strictly for the tech community. And I had been talking with people about doing one for the personal side. Now, I never had a full picture of what I was going to do. And when it finally came around to doing it, as the COVID was coming upon us, then it was just, I'm just going to do the first few podcasts with just trying to reach out to friends, new and old, and see who will come on the show, and try to do something where it'll be like a virtual reunion every week. Awesome. And so that's how that started. But to help you understand what podcasts are, okay, they're like an audio book. So most podcasts you're going to find online under like the Apple iTunes podcast, Google podcast. So you have to kind of go looking for them. You get an app on your phone or your desktop, and you can listen to it like you're listening to internet radio, and you just pick the podcast that you like. So if you go online and look for the Uncle Marv podcast, we're going to be there, and your episode will show up later tonight. Now, the video portion I added because a lot of things that we do, people like to see. So we're broadcasting live on the Facebook and on YouTube, and they will stay there for people to find them later. And then the audio version will go onto my webpage, and people can download, and you can subscribe to the podcast. So if you don't get to watch live, you can always listen, whether it's in the car, jogging, tooling around the house or whatever. Just have the Uncle Marv podcast bumping in your headset.
Well, and I just joined, and I see one on Amy Coons.
Yes. So Amy Coons was PBA.
Mm-hmm.
And Todd Shoemaker is a name you should know from PBA.
Yes.
And the other ones that I've done so far have been from my high school. Chris Snyder, Lenny DeBruin. And then I've done 2 with my best friend MacGyver, who is a big Junior Achievement alumni. So that's who's been on so far.
Now, is Amy, is she, is that her maiden name?
Yes. Yep, that's always been her name. She's not married.
She's not?
Nope.
Because I know the name sounds familiar, so I was trying to.
Yes.
You know how you try to.
That Amy Coons, yes.
And so she must. Well, I don't see her. She's not on Facebook, is she?
She wasn't very active, but she's been active like the last month. She's been active. In fact, she was the one. We actually hosted a Zoom union 2 weekends ago for Palm Beach Atlantic people based on the class of 91, which is the year she graduated. So I helped her host.
Does she live in Illinois?
Yes, she does.
Okay, yep. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, just go right ahead. Just, start digging into your Facebook, trying to research stuff while we're on the air.
Well, I know I should remember her. Right? I should.
So the short answer is yes.
Okay.
But here's the thing. So it's weird because even Coons and I were trying to talk about stuff. She was an RA. So she was on leadership. And, sadly enough, I don't remember all the stuff that her and I did, except that when I left PBA and I spent time in the 3 years of darkness, which that'll be a later episode, so I'm not going to explain it now. Mm-hmm. I had a lot of conversations with Coons about my time in the darkness. So that's where actually her and I became better friends was after PBA. And when I moved back to Fort Lauderdale, and I spent a couple years working with Junior Achievement, working with the Humane Society. When I decided to start my tech business, Coons I had like an informal mini board of directors where I invited everybody and we talked about, hey, I want to start this. What do you think? And that happened in 1997.
But that's when you were living in South Carolina, isn't that correct? Or at some point along your journey, you lived in South Carolina.
North Carolina.
North Carolina, excuse me. Where in North Carolina?
The town of Wake Forest.
That's right.
Just outside of Raleigh. And I had several jobs up there. I worked in the Research Triangle. I was a security guard for BASF, the company that basically said, we don't make a lot of the products but we make them better. That was their slogan.
But don't you always wonder, like, if something was so good, how or why did you have to improve it? That's what Chris will always say. Nothing improved. Well, sure, it had to be good, Okay, shiny squirrel.
Mm-hmm.
Remember the other night we were talking about David Rivers. It was David Powell. That was the name he had.
That's why I couldn't. David Powell. I know that name. I know.
Well, I know, and I don't know the story, but I knew when I said that name, you would remember. Okay, so that shiny squirrel's gone.
All right, making a note for David Powell to come back to at some point.
But yeah, okay.
All right. So podcast. So go to the page, unclemarv.com, and hit subscribe on one of the podcast feeds, because Uncle Marv is in Apple. It's in Google. Mm-hmm. We are now also in Spotify. Mm-hmm.
Look at you.
Yeah.
Well, moving on up.
Yeah. It ain't that kind of moving on up. Not like Joe Rogan making $100 million.
It's okay. You can't take it to heaven with you anyway, so.
No, but you can sure have a lot of fun getting there.
That's true.
Just like the sign says. Like the song says.
What does the sign say?
It can buy me a boat. It can buy me a truck to pull it. You don't know that song? You don't listen to country music, do you?
Well, yes and no. I heard when we first got on here, you were listening to Keith Urban.
Yes, good job.
Yes, he's good. So no, who sings that song?
I don't know. Hang on.
Buy me a boat. Buy me a trailer. I mean, my girls listen to country.
Buy me a truck to pull it.
Is that Darius Rucker?
No, not Darius Rucker.
I know. He sings country music.
Yes, he does.
Who would ever thought, right?
That you would know Darius Rucker?
Well, I'm just saying, I mean, the band that he used to be in, and now he's in country music.
Hootie and the Blowfish.
Yeah, thank you.
Used to come down here all the time.
Really?
Chris Jansen sings Buy Me a Boat.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm sure that my girls would recognize that, but I won't. Maybe I've heard it. Maybe. I'm not sure.
All right. I'm sure you've heard it. I can't play it because I don't have the license to play real music on the podcast. So.
Oh. So if you didn't know it and you played it, what would happen to you? Would you get a fine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. One of the organizations would reach out and ask me to pay royalty fees. They're not cheap.
I was going to say, how much would that cost?
A lot.
Oh, okay.
Let's put it this way. I would need a big old donor. So here's the thing. So I do have a license to play karaoke versions of music.
Okay.
And this is just to give you an idea. So it cost me $300 a year for the ASCAP license,
Okay.
which means I can play music in the ASCAP library through their licensing. But I still have to buy the rights to each song individually. And the karaoke versions of songs, the license is $20 a piece. And then you still have to like legally buy the song.
Oh,
That's just the karaoke version.
wow.
So now to buy the real versions, sometimes they're thousands of dollars.
I had no idea.
So if you know somebody that wants to sponsor the Uncle Marv podcast for about 10 grand a year, that would help.
Sure. Sure.
But
Hey,
right now, for people that want to donate, go to unclemarv.com, click donate.
Well, and if you gave out your cell phone number, you could do Apple Pay, but you know.
You think I'm giving out my cell phone number? Not a chance.
I don't know. It's worth a shot. Hey, does Kim come and do the podcast with you?
She will.
Is she there?
No, I'm at the office. I know this looks like my house, but this is not my house.
I was going to say, I thought it was your house.
No.
This is my chair. This chair is 30 years old too, by the way.
This is my green screen. So I switch between this and my office background. So I switch to this when I'm doing my tech podcast. So when I'm doing the tech podcast, I switch to that.
Gotcha. And is that MB systems for Marvin B systems?
Yes. Very original.
So that's just a green screen, or that's?
Yep, it's a green screen.
It looks just like a house.
Mm-hmm. So that's how it looks behind me.
Yeah, I know. When I do Zoom calls or FaceTime,
People do that.
Zoom. Usually I'll do that with like a small group, and I don't know how to do it on your phone, but you can do a background from your phone if you want, but I don't know how to do it. So
yeah, but they look. People need to stop that. Some of those look really, really tacky.
You can see through them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, like if you move, it looks like your head's going through something, but it's really not. But yeah,
that's why I invested in almost professional equipment so I can make it look like I know what I'm doing.
Well, but you do, because obviously you know what you're doing.
Yep.
That's really a sheet behind you, but you couldn't tell.
Nope.
So there it is. Good, nice job, Marvin.
Now what I'm working on now is to have like the little square video up there so that when I talk about stuff, I can have it pop up on the screen like a newscaster.
Yeah.
This just in, that sort of stuff.
Hey, question for you. How has this pandemic affected your work? Has it made it better, the same? Is it worse? How's it affected you?
So for the most part, it's the same. Most of my customers, which are attorneys, consider themselves to be essential. So they stayed open.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them did have to make some adjustments with having staff work remotely, but most of them already had the situation set up where the attorneys were able to work remotely. So there wasn't much adjusting there. So it was just getting, in some cases, staff would rotate. Some are in the office, some are out of the office, and that sort of thing. Other offices, we got the entire office working remotely, and it wasn't a huge deal. There was maybe a couple of weeks where, I had to stay late a couple of times to set people up from their house to be able to make sure they could connect into the office, but not a huge deal. There's a lot of people in my industry that, some of their businesses, if they were in either entertainment or hospitality, they took a big hit. So they had to adjust and had to, figure out ways to survive. Again, my customers, most of them are not on an official contract, but we do have monthly agreements. And so far, everybody has continued to pay. So I've not had that. But there has been, some adjustments. Some of the customers that were not on board with doing secure remote access, now they are. Some customers that were reluctant to get out of the traditional office setting, they didn't want people connecting remotely. They didn't want, those types of access, provided. Well, they had to do it. And they were happy that I had at least been talking to them, for the last few years saying, you need to kind of, stick with the times here. This is what people are going to be doing. And so it wasn't a big twist of the arm to get customers to, some of them had to make some purchases, had to update their internet connections, their firewalls and stuff like that. But it wasn't a big push and not much of an effect, at least for my business.
Very good.
Now, that's good. What did it do for you guys with, I know that, technically you had to close down the school and stuff, right? And no church services and stuff like that. So how has that been?
Well, we're still closed, but so a couple of things that affected me and the people that I work with from the school aspect is that we were basically closed. Spring break happened the 16th through the 23rd. And then that Tuesday, we were supposed to go back to school, just like Leon County. And because they didn't open and the pandemic, we all had to stay home. And so like for the first week, I kept thinking, okay, school's going to open up in a week or two. And then finally, it was pretty evident that schools would not be returning. And remember a while ago, I said we're a part-time program, but our trustees felt like it was the best thing to do was to pay all of our staff their regularly worked hours through the end of, our last day of school was May the 15th. So, that for me was really hard to virtually lead about 25 people to make sure that they were, reaching out to their children and families and, making sure that they were staying in touch with me, whether it was text messages or email or whatever I needed them to do. Because when they worked from home, so when they all got paid, I needed to set some boundaries and some guidelines to do work. And that's where it became really convoluted because one teacher may have no children. One teacher may have a special needs child. One may have a child or two in elementary, middle school, and high school, and they're trying to get them all set up on their distance learning. So to try to have them do, and they're teachers by trade, that means in the classroom. And we've never been virtual. We're a preschool. We care for children that are 18 months to 4 years of age, which none of that is really appropriate to do virtual, training. So we did a lot of things like Zoom calls and FaceTime and send letters and cards and just love on the kids. And so so the last day of school was May the 15th for me. So the last couple of weeks, we've just been closing up all of our documentation for this current school year, which we normally do. And now we're trying to kind of get geared up for 2021, but we don't know what it's going to look like yet.
Right.
And so right now, Florida Department of Education doesn't really know. Office of Early Learning doesn't know. Early Learning Coalition doesn't know. And DCF doesn't know. So, there are programs that are open. I just don't know what we're going to do. So we still have to plan and prepare. for social distancing, if Leon County wants to propose to buy every student here in the county their own Chrome tablet. I guess they're preparing for the fact that the school may not open. If the school doesn't open in August, we may not either. I just don't know. So, just trust in the Lord, and He's got it all under control. So
Right.
that's where we are.
It's got to be interesting because my nephew is 4, my youngest nephew, and trying to get him to engage through video. He's good for 2 to 3 minutes.
Exactly.
So, how did you guys have to make that transition to do those types of things? Because I have to imagine you couldn't, obviously in a preschool setting, you're not doing a classroom type thing like they would in, high school or junior high or something. But to have a few minutes a day where a teacher can be in contact with a student, how did you guys make that transition? And was it hard?
Well, sure it is. And it's one of those things where you've got to make sure that the parents, obviously 4-year-olds, don't have access to a laptop or a computer, but their parents do. And that it's a Zoom call, and, hopefully everybody's going to get on. One teacher, like you did earlier, you muted me. Well, then they'll mute all the kids. One teacher finally said, before we do our Zoom call today, make sure that each child has a snack, right there while they're, because it's not really for educational purposes that we did the Zoom call. The Zoom call was to say, hey, how's everybody doing? What are you doing to keep busy? And, Miss Beth, one of our teachers, I love you and I miss you. And, one teacher that I jumped on with, we're going to do a scavenger hunt. Go find something in your house that begins with a letter B and bring it back. And then everybody takes a turn sharing. Or go somewhere in your house and find something that's red and bring it back and share it. So it was just trying to stay connected and stay engaged, not necessarily for educational purposes.
Right.
Because you're right. I mean, 4-year-olds, maybe 1 or 2 minutes.
Now, what about you and your staff? I mean, did you have your virtual staff meetings, and how did you guys, do your communications?
Did a lot of it through Zoom, through FaceTime, through, like I said, email and text messages. And even up to probably even a couple of weeks ago, with my administration, there's 4 of us, on the team. We did Zoom calls, so you just, now we are going in the office for a few hours every day. Some of us, and there's 4 of us, that's the maximum, which is not a lot. So we go in the office, go to the school. There's nobody there really. So we go in there and, work on some stuff, and then we go home. But that's how we try to stay connected. So that's what we've been doing. It's worked. It's not ideal in terms of leading everybody, but I'm so thankful for technology that we've at least got this now, because, it's so funny. My oldest daughter is 26. And one day she said, gosh, what did you and Dad do before you had Google or the internet? I'm like, oh, that's easy. You have a dictionary and encyclopedia and a paper map, even when we were in college, there was nothing like this. So we're blessed, I think. Don't you agree?
Well, yes and no, because here's the thing, I've been communicating. You got me on, I can hear myself. Echo.
I didn't do anything.
Okay. So remember, though, part of the joys of our growing up is we were active. We got to go outside. We got to experience things in a completely different way. Technology, yes, it's better in a lot of areas, but it's also horrible in a lot of areas too, because the social interaction is not there. Kids today, social distancing, no big deal, because they're used to being on their phones all the time.
Yeah, I know. That is really bad. So here in Tallahassee, when the weather's really nice in the spring and the fall, we love to open up our windows. We love it. And one of the greatest things that I've experienced these last few months is hearing children play outside.
Mm,
I love it. Love it.
yep.
They're actually outside playing and I can hear them. And some people get, annoyed by that, but I'm like, no, they're riding their bikes and everything outside. It's awesome. It's
Do you
been
remember
great.
there was a time where after school, before the sports and everything, it was literally you get home, finish your homework, and it was outside. Every kid outside. And that's all you could hear was kids running up and down the street playing whatever games, tag, or
Yeah.
we played football in the street. We rode our bikes and jumped on ramps, climbed trees, and
Mhm.
we stayed out until the street light came on, and then you had to be home.
Yeah, and sometimes you even stayed out after the streetlights came on, especially on a Friday night, and the whole neighborhood was out playing hide and seek. You just
Well, that was
couldn't
different
believe.
because the parents would be out with us at that time because Friday
Yeah.
nights, everybody would come out and the lawn chairs on the front lawns and
Mhm.
people talking to each other and
Mhm.
block parties even.
Yes,
So
you're
it's
right.
back. It's back when we were all friendly to each other. Neighbors knew
Oh,
neighbors.
mhm. Yeah. Well, there's a development here where Chris works. It's called Southwood, and they've set up the majority of the neighborhood for front porches. So the way you access your house with your car, it's behind. So you have an alley where you pull your car in behind, but the front is the porch, and that's where the goal is to help get people to interact a little bit more, as opposed to what we do here is we pull our cars in the garage and you close the garage door and that's the only time you see somebody is when they're coming and going.
Right.
But no, what I was saying about technology in terms of not that it's necessarily good, although you're bringing up other aspects. I just meant in terms of this situation where, at least to have the ability. But yeah, for children, in fact, even in our school, Marvin, we don't even do a lot of technology because we're old school. Like we play, we go outside, we have fun, and the families that we have and the children that we have, they've got that technology at home. They don't need that at school. They need to learn how to get along with others and take turns and make friendships. So those are the things that we try to focus on at school. So we don't do a lot of technology. And
All right.
what's really awesome is when our children leave our program and they go to other schools, the children are known because of the teachers and how well they've been prepared, that they love getting our children because they're ready. They've learned everything that they need to learn so that they can go to their next school. So it's kind of cool. We give God all the glory for it. That's for sure.
Oh, good. That sounds actually great and almost like a tradition now to keep going. That the expectation that we're going to get good kids from kinder school.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I have no notes. I don't know why I'm looking down at a piece of paper. It's not like one of my regular podcasts where I've got questions asked. It's just us talking. Was the question that you wanted to ask me? Is that what you asked earlier? Or what's that question you want to ask?
No, the other question I wanted to ask you was, well, two things. Okay, the first one is easy. So, did you answer the question that I had for how many people you've spoken to that went to PBA? Was that Todd Shoemaker and Amy Coons? Who else have you done the podcast with from PBA?
So I think that's it for the podcast. I've only done 11 shows. I think you're number 12. So there hasn't been a lot.
Okay.
So
are they all on the podcast thing that I just signed up for?
yes. Yep.
Okay.
Everybody's there.
Okay. Then when we get done, I'll go back and I'll look since it's on my phone. And then my other question for you that I just now thought about. So I know you are asking me a lot of questions, but when you left PBA, did you go straight to North Carolina, or where did you go? What did you do? Or
So
when I
yes,
allowed to ask those, huh?
well, you can ask, but I will say this. So when I left PBA, I went to North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I don't talk a lot about that, because I do call that the 3 years of darkness.
Yes.
And I am going to make an entire episode where I explain the 3 years of darkness, because it's going to get a little deep.
Okay.
Much like the time we're going through now, there's some touchy subjects in there, and I want to make sure I give it the proper context and the proper background,
Mm-hmm.
and help explain a lot of what happened. So yes, so there were 3 years there, and then I came back to Fort Lauderdale in '92 and worked for Junior Achievement for 2 years. And the reason I ended up working with Junior Achievement was from the time that I was a junior in high school, I was a part of Junior Achievement, the after school program, and did that for 2 years, won Company of the Year, President of the Year, and was able to attend their national conference. And at the time, that was held in Bloomington, Indiana, on the campus of Indiana University.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, billed as the top 1% of, businesses in Junior Achievement. And there were contests, and there were, all sorts of things that happened. There was a business and industry day where top leaders in business, even sports, came to give speeches, presentations at the Memorial Union, where all of us would gather at night to hear these presentations. Lee Iacocca, Joe Theismann, and big names would come in to give speeches and presentations. So I attended 2 years as a delegate, and then I attended 10 years as staff.
Oh.
And my responsibilities on staff were to lead groups of kids when they came in, and guide them throughout the day, help them. We did group discussions, and it would be everything from trust sessions to talking about practical business applications of what they learned in the company program, helping students prepare for their contests. They had marketing contests, HR contests, president. Some of the students tried to be officers at the conference. It was a big deal. So then I worked for JA for 2 years when I got back to Fort Lauderdale, then worked for the Humane Society as the Director of Volunteer Services for about a year. All that time, I was also doing stuff on the side with computers, not because I wanted to be a computer guy, but because I was good at computers. And a gentleman kept asking me to come work for him because I built computers better than his techs did. And when he was able to afford me, I left the Humane Society, went there, worked there for 2 years, had a little disagreement with him about how much better I could do things than he could. And he said, not a chance, you wouldn't survive. And I said, all right, I'll show you. So 1997, I started my business, and still here.
Wow. That's amazing.
So that's my story in a nutshell.
And do you, you said that the majority of your clients are attorneys, is that right?
Yep.
And you must have a lot, I'm assuming.
No, not a lot. So for the most part, my business, at least now, has been scaled back. It's just me as the main tech. I do have subcontractors that will help me. I actually had a guy with me today. We were finishing up the moving of a client from over the weekend. So I have a guy here, a couple of guys that help. I have techs in other cities, because some of my clients have offices in multiple cities. So even though they're here, they're in Orlando, Tampa. I did have a client with an office in Tallahassee. That's why I was up there, Jacksonville. So I have techs in all those areas that help. But I have probably, I think it's about 30 regular clients. And they range.
That's pretty lucrative. That's pretty good,
Yeah,
Marvin.
they range in size. Some of them are small, but I've, my largest client at their peak was 195 people across the state.
That's awesome.
So That's it. And
That's
I manage all of it from here and go on site, maybe once a day to a client. Everything else is done remotely once I get everything set up.
that is so cool. That is really cool. Wow. So do you do your own taxes, or do you have an accountant that does that for you since you have so much to manage?
I got an accountant early on because in year 2, I believe, I messed up and ended up owing $4,000 to the IRS.
Hold on just one second. Hold on.
All right.
Where did you find that, Chris?
I don't know if you remember, it was all smashed and scrunched up. So I put it under the rug for the way the rug. I should have made it out.
So those of you that are listening to the audio podcast after the fact, Pam has gone sidebar with her husband and they are chatting about something.
We were looking for a manual to a new grill, and we couldn't remember where we put it. So he just found it. You want to say hi to Chris?
Hey,
Marvin.
Chris, how are you? It's been a while, my friend.
Yeah. Yeah, you still look like you're 20-something.
Oh, stop it.
Chris he's always genuine. Okay, so wait a minute. You said the second year you got audited, and what happened? I missed.
No, I
that
didn't.
last
I didn't
part.
get audited. I was trying to do everything myself because, me being a business major, thinking I can handle this.
Yeah.
And I wasn't incorporated. I was doing everything on the sole proprietorship status and, self-reporting and that sort of thing, and kind of got behind and owed $4,000 and said, I don't think I can let that happen again. So I went through a couple of accountants because, I tried to get them to help me, pay off the $4,000 quickly, and didn't really work out, but I got one and been with him ever since. So going on 20 years, I've been with my accountant now, and we incorporated and do things by the book.
Exactly. That's a good thing to do. Better to be ahead than behind, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes. Wow. So does Kim work at home or outside the home?
She works for me now.
Does she really?
She does.
That's awesome.
And so when she first came to Florida, she had an outside job. She worked for LA Weight Loss and was a manager at a store. Actually went to Atlanta for a couple of years to open up the Atlanta market. And that worked out for a couple of years. And then corporate took it over. She worked a year with corporate, and then something happened there. And I said, it's time for you to come home, because we were basically living apart for 3 years. And I said, enough of this. I got, she's from Ohio. So I said, I got you to Ohio, from Ohio to Florida to be in Florida, not to be in Atlanta. So she came back, did work a couple of years there and started doing stuff for me pretty much part-time. I had techs at the time. And so sometime between 2008 and 2012, as I started to be able to do more stuff remotely, I had a couple of unmotivated techs. And I said, you know what? I can do this without you. And the original goal was to hire another full-time tech again, but I haven't had to do that yet. So I'm surviving with the subcontractors, and I'll do that until, time says that I have to hire somebody. It's getting tough where people want, immediate response. So I'm not always available every time somebody calls, but there's going to be a point in time where I'm going to have to, make sure that somebody's available. As good as Kim is in some areas, she's not a tech. So she can't do a lot of that stuff for me. So there may be a tech in the future full-time again, but it is what it is.
But right now it's working out well.
Yep.
That's good. It's really good.
All right.
So
that's enough. That's all your questions.
Okay. Well,
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I have to think, but I think that was it. Oh gosh. Oh, this isn't a question. Email me that picture, because I don't know. I don't think I have that. So I'll email you.
Okay. So I asked you before we started, because apparently we weren't talking about the same picture.
No.
Because I asked you if Chris had seen that picture.
Well, I forgot about that picture and I'm like, where did you get that picture?
So what you're saying is I wasn't a memorable date for you at homecoming.
That's not what I'm saying. But I did. So we have photo albums in a chest that my brother-in-law made, and I mean, I didn't go through them all. So my daughter Avery just moved to Panama City about 2 weeks ago, and she came home this weekend. She had a dermatology appointment and stuff like that. So I was really hanging out with her a lot. And so I didn't go through all my pictures, but I did go through one of the years, and that's when I found the picture of Alan and I. Now, I need to take some more time to go through some more photo albums, and I may have it, but you can send me a little bit of time if you email that to me.
Okay, I will email that to you.
That doesn't mean that the date wasn't memorable. It just means I have a lot of photo albums.
It's okay. I have a lot of pictures that I've been going through, and at least, your picture, you and I remembered. I have pictures of people I went to events with. I don't even remember who they were. I feel bad.
Is that like the brain cells didn't connect, or how did you forget?
Because remember, I didn't officially date, so it wasn't like, I spent, weeks or months with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
It was an event, and a lot of times it was, based on what I was doing around that time, whether it was student government or something else with leadership. It was whoever I was around and hanging out with.
Mm-hmm.
And there's, I don't have the picture set up to show you, because I may have to show you and say, because I'm gonna have to ask somebody, who is this person, or I need to go find a yearbook and try to look them up. Because there's 2 pictures I have of while I was at Palm Beach Atlantic that I went to events with. I don't know who they were.
Do you want to email them to me and let me see if I recognize them?
Okay, I can do that.
Okay. And then I really wish you would somehow be able to connect with Kelsey English.
Okay.
Are you friends with her on Facebook?
I don't think so. Kelsey English. If anybody knows Kelsey, or if Kelsey ends up listening to this at some point.
So who's your friend Uli on here? Uli
Uli Bernier is he's a gentleman from my high school.
Oh, and he says, no worries on remembering Marvin. It's just part of getting old.
Yes.
Okay, so I just turned 59. You must be like 51, 52.
Wow.
Is that right? 53.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep. So Uli is actually going to be in an upcoming episode.
Oh.
He has a very interesting life. He has some very good insight into events like COVID-19. So I don't want to give away too much, but Uli has a very interesting job that he was a part of. In let's see, how can I say it without giving away? Well, let's just say this. He's going to have some very interesting insights on pandemic type events.
Oh, and he says, too funny. Pam, you can see the oops. What do you mean by that?
No, it's probably he didn't think you could see the post, maybe.
Oh, and then he says he is retired.
Uli's retired. Yeah, he's no longer in that position.
Oh, okay.
He left that I think about a year ago.
But he has insight on this pandemic.
Yes. Yes. And yes, he is now rolling around Key West. Actually, he and I were on the phone. I think it was last week when he and Wendy were driving down, both of them from my high school, and had just gone through the checkpoint to get into Key West. Because Florida still has the checkpoints up where not anybody can get into Key West.
Mm-hmm. That is true. And now he said something about something about July the 7th, 2019.
That's probably his retirement date. I don't know what he means by I didn't.
Were you in the same graduating class?
Yes.
And you've
Yes.
stayed in touch
No.
all these years?
No.
No?
No. Uli is somebody who, it's funny. So I hadn't probably talked. And here's the thing. This is going to be one of those things. I think Uli played football with me. I'm not 100% sure, but I think we haven't talked yet about all that stuff. But I had a conference that was in Washington, D.C. And when I do events in other cities with my conferences and stuff, I will usually have like one night where it's an open house party. It's basically the Uncle Marv open house party. And I'll put out a thing. And since, thank you for getting me on the Facebook, I'll put an event thing out there saying, hey, I'm going to be here. Anybody that wants to come hang out. And Uli and Wendy showed up in Washington, D.C. I had not seen them since high school.
Oh my gosh. And he said, yes, and yes to football. You did play football together.
We did play football, yep.
Are you reading the comments too? Or
Yes,
am I
I
just
am.
saying, oh, then I don't need to be reading them to you. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
here, I can actually do this. So I can put them up on the screen. So yeah, So once I came to DC, we got in touch. Yes to football. And Lenny, who he's referring to as Lenny DeBruin, who Lenny and Mary were on an earlier podcast. And Lenny and I go way back and played sports together all the way through junior high. And Mary worked with my mom.
Wow. Okay, now I lied. I have another question.
Okay.
Earlier, the very beginning of our podcast, you said that you had thought about going to FSU for football. Yes. So, did you try it for the football team at FSU, or like what happened with that?
No, I didn't actually go try out, because back then, even though I was good in sports, I wasn't great. And I didn't understand the whole concept of scholarships and tryouts and stuff like that. Although I knew that Florida State had some great people playing. And the position that I would have played was a position played by Deion Sanders and Terrell Buckley.
Oh.
And I'm like, I am not going to be able to play. So I ended up getting like academic scholarships, and I got some like local civic scholarships. I actually would have had a free ride all the way through Florida State. But part of the reason that I didn't go was that I wanted a little bit of a challenge. I didn't always want to take the same route that everybody else took. Mm-hmm. So going to Florida State or going to Florida was not something that, tons of my classmates were doing. Well, tons weren't going to Palm Beach Atlantic. And I thought, well, I'll go to Palm Beach Atlantic and I'll dominate down there, which I didn't. I didn't play. There wasn't football at Palm Beach Atlantic. Basketball, I don't even know why I didn't play basketball, even though they asked me to a couple of times, but I didn't. What did Uli say? Had Marvin gone to FSU for football, we would have been there together for a few years. Oh, so Uli went to FSU too. But my scholarships did not cover all of Palm Beach Atlantic. So one of the reasons I worked so hard at PBA was because I had to pay for part of my tuition every year.
And it wasn't cheap.
Because back then, so if I remember correctly, Florida State would have cost me like $4,000 a year. PBA costed $6,000 a semester.
That is exactly correct.
So I know that those numbers don't sound a lot to kids today, because they're, in the teens of thousands now to go to school. But back then, that was a huge difference.
Yeah.
And so I did, my mom. So you had talked about your parents. So, my parents divorced when
Mhm.
I was in like 7th grade.
Okay.
So my mom raised 3 kids by herself, working 2 jobs. I actually didn't play football my junior year, so I could take a job thinking I needed to provide money for myself. But then I went back and played my senior year. But I had to work all through Palm Beach Atlantic. And,
Mhm.
I did the work study program. I did, the youth minister thing for a while. I drove buses for a summer.
I remember all of that.
Yeah.
Yes. Hmm.
I can't remember all the other stuff that I did, but I did security on campus for a summer.
Yes.
I did a lot of work at PBA to make it through. And I think when it was all said and done, I ended up taking a loan my senior year because I said, I can't work this hard, be student government president, do all the stuff I was doing. I said, I took a loan, and that was the only money that I took the 4 years at PBA.
Wow. You worked, but you had a lot of fun too, I think.
Yep. It's a good time. Palm Beach Atlantic was, it was a great time to be at that school because the school was basically coming into its own, getting
Mm-hmm.
its identity.
Mm-hmm.
President Claude H. Ray was probably, of all the administrators that I have been around, I didn't interact with him a lot, but he made it a point to always know what he needed to know about people in the school, whether it was the administrators, the teachers, and students. And he had his students. And I remember him, there would be times where we would be sitting in the chapel and he would be talking, he would be looking right at me. And in the beginning, I'm like, dude, what? Don't be staring at me. But as we went on, I realized what he was doing. There were times that he would target his speeches for specific reasons, and he would know where you would be sitting in chapel so that when it came to that part of the speech, he could be able to look you in the eye and make his point.
I need to look back through my emails because in the last couple of weeks, I got an email from PBA. Something about like you can actually watch their chapels online. Did you know that?
No.
I didn't either. So I have quite a few assignments that I need to complete as I'm telling you that I'm going to send you pictures and
I was gonna say,
emails.
you're giving yourself a lot of work.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, listen, so part of my, I don't even know what I'm going to call it. Part of my discovery podcast, I guess is the best way to call it, will explain some of the stuff because I also, when I left Palm Beach Atlantic, I pretty much was done with PBA too. As great a time as I had, and as much as I was involved with that school, I was thinking I was done with that place also.
Really?
Yeah.
But you're not going to share that here. You're going to share that.
No, I can't share that. First of all, we're an hour and a half into this podcast. This is now the longest podcast that I've ever done. I'm gonna have to break it up into 2 parts because nobody's gonna listen to this completely through if they're doing the.
Uli's going to listen to it.
He will. He and Wendy are probably listening together. So yeah. So here's the thing. I know that I'm doing this to reconnect with a lot of people, and there's a lot of questions that people have. And some of the questions that people are going to ask of me, like I said earlier, they're going to need some background. They're going to need some context. And it's not just a story I can tell and say, this happened. End of story. There's a lot of things that led up to events. And there's a lot, even in some of the events themselves, there was a lot of stuff. And there was a lot of, let's just say, emotion. That's probably the best way I can describe it. That happened around those events. And then of course the aftermath, because some of those things had such a lasting impact even to today.
Mhm.
And you know, the things that I have refused to talk about.
Mhm.
So but it's going to happen. I need to do it. Just like I'm drafting right now comments that I need to make about the George Floyd situation. I can't not say something. As a black man, there are too many people that for some reason don't connect the things that they say with the fact that I'm a black man in this time going through a lot of these things that you are either flippantly not paying attention to, or not acknowledging, or don't think is a problem. And so, you know, I usually don't talk about a lot of that stuff, but I'm going to have to. I have to let people know that, you know, these aren't events that are on your TV that don't affect people, you know, outside of your life. To describe some of the things that I go through, even today, you know, people a lot of times won't believe. So
I haven't walked in those shoes, but I'm with you. I understand and agree that, you know, I think I'll probably mess up on the saying, but if you stay silent, it's like you're part of the problem, you know. And I don't post a lot on social media, on Instagram or Facebook, really that much. But the thing that I always think about is just be kind to people. Just be kind. Does it really have to be that hard? I don't understand that. Both of my girls work at Publix, and they deal with a lot of the public. And sometimes they'll come home at the end of the day, and they're emotionally drained, mainly because people have been unkind. There's no reason for it. Put on your big girl pants or put on your big boy pants and be kind to one another, right? Don't you? You know what I mean? So
yeah.
Anyway, I've just what I'll do is I'll just post some Bible verses and just that emit something to me as a reminder that be humble, love justice, be merciful and kind to one another, and it doesn't matter who you are, but that's what God commands us to do. And I guess a couple of things I think about personally is one who has been forgiven much will love much. I mean, you know, and I understand that the world doesn't all know Jesus, but he's the only one that can change our hearts. And I don't know. That's just my 2 cents for what it's worth. But and to get to know people, you know, doesn't matter the color of your skin. I mean, I know some white people that aren't very nice, Marvin. So I don't necessarily think it's about the color of skin. I think it's about what's in the heart, who the person is, you know. I'm sorry that you're ever having to go through dark times, because that's.
Well, it's interesting because if you think about it, the path that most of us have been on, and when I say most of us, the people that I grew up with, and whether that is, you know, in my, you know, junior high, high school, Satellite Beach, a lot of people, we didn't deal with a lot of this stuff. We didn't. I have to describe it in a sense that there were very few times that I actually dealt with it from the people that I grew up with, whether it was, you know, high school, college, even at PBA. You know, I can't tell you that any of this happened as a direct result of anybody at PBA. And I can't explain why, because every point along the way, I felt comfortable enough with the people that I was around. And, I always made it a point to not bring up anything. Like, the best way I can describe it is I never wanted to be congratulated or be allowed to do something because I was Black. There were a lot of things along the way. Well, you can apply for this minority scholarship or you can do that. I'm like, no, I don't want that. Give it to me because I earned it, or give it to me because, I outdid somebody, in a contest or whatever. Do those things. And it wasn't a big deal until it wasn't, or until it was. And then when it was a thing. It's like I said, I don't have my thoughts completely scripted because I don't want to misspeak, because some people aren't going to understand where I'm coming from, who have known me for many, many years, and don't see what I see or haven't experienced what I experience. And I don't want to hold it against them. There's many reasons that people that I grew up with, they should not feel guilty or they should not feel hurt based on what's happening. Because in a lot of ways, not everybody has to say something or do something. You should only do that if you can affect the situation. The problem is that there are people that can do something and don't. Those are the people I have trouble with, where you have the ability to step in and stop an injustice or speak up against an injustice, and you don't, and you allow it to happen, you knowingly allow it to happen. That's where I have an issue.
Where you have an opportunity to be an advocate, but you don't.
Right. Don't silently make a comment to me, about how good you are, that you're not that way. That really doesn't mean much to me, because the interactions that you and I have aren't based on that. So you don't have to prove to me how good you are. And I know that's not what I wanted to say. And that's why I wanted to keep my comments, because, having to explain what I mean by that is something that will, like I said, some people understand, some won't.
Well, can I don't know all the things that happened in your life. But I know one thing. It's made you who you are today.
Yep.
And it's been a while since we've connected, but I know that anything that you went through, God used it all for good. And I was listening to the radio today on my way home, and as a parent, this dad was saying, I grew up having hard times, and yet I find myself wanting to protect my children from those very things. Meaning that, as a parent or maybe even an uncle, you want to protect people so that they don't go through bad times, but it's those bad times that make us strong, and it makes us grow in our faith. Because when we live in a day and age of so much entitlement that is ludicrous. And so anyway, I'm just thinking that, if hard times make us to be better people, if we'll use it to make us better people.
Right. Absolutely. All right. So you and I can have this conversation because you and I have a background that, is pretty soundly rooted, from our time at PBA. And, I don't remember everything, but I do know that you and I had some good times. We had some good conversations. We didn't have walked by Chapel by the Lake, which is what a lot of people did. What?
We did it?
No, we didn't do that.
But there was something at over in Palm Beach. We did something.
Let's see. Did we go to Worth Avenue and hang out?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. We did.
Yeah, we go walking up and down Worth Avenue saying, someday.
Wait, when Kim listens to this, she's gonna go, "What? What are you talking about?"
No, I'm sure I told her some of the stories. I've told,
Those were our college days, honey. Those were our college days.
Yeah. Yeah, so she saw the picture very early.
Did she?
Yeah.
Good.
And I
Well, you're
basically
sweet man, and thank God for a friend like you, Marvin.
All right. Okay, so let me go back and I put a note here. So Kelsey English, you want me to look up?
Yes, and do you know how to spell her name? Do I need to spell it for you? Uli is still listening.
Of course, Uli's a good man. You know what? I first need to see, because we might be friends, because, there's a lot of people that I've been friends with.
You and Kelsey? You're not.
There's a chance. Okay, you already looked it up.
I did.
Okay, there we are. We have 4 mutual friends.
Yes.
Pam Green and Jill Carlson.
Yes.
There we go. Wait a minute. She has blonde hair now? Her hair
Yes.
wasn't blonde at PBA, was it?
Did you not ever get any of your yearbooks when you were there? Because apparently I
have them. They're like stored away somewhere at the house. So,
okay.
And here's the thing. Kim came with a lot of baskets. Do you know what Longaberger baskets are?
I do. Hold on just one second, Marvin. Hey, Shelby.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Pam Luke has
you coming home?
Gotten on the phone. I'm muting her because she's having a phone conversation with a friend. Pam does not understand that we are live on the Facebook and YouTube right now, and that people are watching. So I now have to fill airtime describing what is happening here. This has now officially become the longest podcast that I have done, either as a part of the Uncle Marv podcast or Podnuts Pro, which is my tech podcast. Matt Rainey, you have a new record to beat. She is now picking up the finger, letting me know that it will be just a minute. Meanwhile, folks, I am perusing the Facebook, looking at Kelsey English's page. And our 4 mutual friends, Jill Carlson, Pam Green, Jim Burkett, and Rachel Miller. And those of you in the tech world, not that Rachel Miller. I know 2 Rachel Millers. So I will be reaching out to them. And Wendy, yes, you and Uli are the only ones watching live because nobody else can make it this long into a podcast. When I release it, it will be in multi-parts. Uli, you will not be hearing more about the chapel by the lake. Actually, I think it was called Chapel by the Sea. I need to get that absolutely correct. I will figure that out. But I can describe it to you. So Palm Beach Atlantic College was right next to First Baptist Church of West Palm Beach. And West Palm is basically divided from Palm Beach by an intracoastal waterway. So the First Baptist Church is literally on the intracoastal. And
unmute me.
Okay. Don't be. I'm trying to describe Palm Beach. Who's that?
Shelby. Say hi. Say hi.
Marvin.
Shelby, how are you?
How are you?
I'm good.
Are you talking to the most beautiful mother in the whole wide world right now?
Okay. You realize that you're broadcasting it all over social media, right?
That's okay.
Did she tell you that? You're live on the Facebook and the YouTube.
Perfect.
So, Shelby, do you even know who I am?
Marvin, I have met you.
I know. I just want to make sure you remembered.
She did. I said,
I just had a second job interview and they loved me.
Where at?
A charter school over here in Panama City.
Oh, a charter school. And what were you interviewing for?
Haven.
What was the name of it?
North Bay Haven.
Okay. Do you need me to send a reference for you?
Oh my gosh, would you?
Sure.
Yes, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I'll send it on my official company letterhead. Just tell me what to write and I'll sign it. And
Oh my gosh, you better not be yanking my chain right now because I'm totally taking you seriously.
no, you do. I'll do it. I mean, would they really believe it and take it though? I'll do it. I'll sign a reference and yeah, I'll do that for you.
You have the greatest friend.
I know. What
Okay.
I'll send emails back and forth. So since you're driving, say goodbye to Marvin and I'll send you emails.
Oh yeah, don't be driving and
I'm
talking.
talking to you, hon.
All right, Shelby. Hey, so I think next summer I'm going to be up in the Panhandle, so we'll have to hang out.
I would love to. We can grab coffee.
We need that coffee. Okay. Do you want me to bring some?
Can we grab coffee?
Yes, we can grab coffee.
Okay. All right, Mommy. I love you.
I love you too.
Bye.
Be safe going home. Talk to you
Bye,
later. hon.
Shell.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Yeah. So yeah, I said, Shelby, I'm doing a podcast with Marvin. She goes, Marvin, I want to say hi to Marvin. I'm like, oh my gosh, really?
Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
So what was this that we were talking about by Chapel by the
I
Sea?
was trying to describe while you were on the phone. Uli said he wanted to hear more about the Chapel by the Lake. So
It's Chapel by the Sea.
I corrected myself. I said it was Chapel by the Sea, and I was describing what the Chapel by the Sea was. I will never talk about what happened at the Chapel by the Sea. What happens at the chapel stays at the chapel. But I was explaining that First Baptist Church is on the Intracoastal Waterway across from Palm Beach, and it literally is on Flagler Drive.
Yes.
And there's a little stretch of Flagler Drive that juts out just enough that they were able to build an outside chapel on the Intracoastal, literally on the water.
That's right.
And that was the Chapel by the Sea.
That's right.
And because it was open, anybody could go there at any time. You weren't supposed to, but you did. There wasn't a fence. There wasn't a no trespassing sign or anything like that. It was the honor system back in the 1980s.
True. That's true.
And being that Palm Beach Atlantic was associated with the church, it was understood that the students were supposed to be presenting themselves in a Christian-like manner.
So is Wendy Uli's wife?
I don't think they're officially married, and if they are, I am sorry.
No. Well, she has a last name of Morrison.
Well,
Hi,
I know
Wendy.
that, but there's a lot of people that don't change their name when they get married.
That's true. Yeah, but I was asking if that was her because you had mentioned Uli and Wendy.
Yes, but that is Wendy, who is associated with Uli. I apologize for not knowing the official relationship.
That's okay. So, this is funny. You'll like this.
Okay.
So, Chris and I realized that when we switch the first letters of our name, it's not Pam and Chris, it's Piss and Cram.
Oh my. Why? Who does that?
Oh, they're not married.
I didn't think so, but I've spoken out of turn many times before. But thank you, Wendy, for letting us know that.
Yes.
And if there is a wedding, I need to be there.
Yes. How long have you been dating, Wendy? Maybe she'll answer.
Now that I should know, they actually got together before I visited DC, which I believe was 2016. So it could be as early as 2015. That's my guess. Wendy, can you please give us what the correct answer is and let me know what I will win?
She just said you'll be invited.
Well, yes.
But she hasn't answered your question yet, but I'm sure she will.
Well, remember, it's a little bit of a delay. So, this is like real radio where there's a 7-second delay for, bleeping stuff.
Oh, she said, this isn't my show. Well, there's an old saying, the more the merrier. So I figured maybe she was going to. $1983.
Okay, that to me sounds like they dated.
They did.
In 1983, which would have been our sophomore year at Satellite High School.
So they dated in high school, and now they're together again. You know
what? There's a lot of people reconnected in 2009. There's a lot of people I'm finding out. So the podcast that you need to go back and listen to, it's entitled Meant to Be, Lenny and Mary. They were two people who basically liked each other like in junior high, but never knew it. And like went on their separate ways through junior high and high school. And Lenny, this is, you got to listen to it and listen to Lenny tell the story of how he actually came back to Satellite Beach years later, looking for Mary. But she was engaged.
Oh.
And he let her be. He didn't confront her. He didn't believe in, stepping in and ruining anything. They both got married, both got divorced, and came back together. And now they're married.
Isn't that amazing?
So if it's meant to be, it's meant to be.
That's true. That's very true.
So, yep. So they are together. And that is episode 8 on the Uncle Mark podcast. So you need to go back and listen to some of these podcasts just to get a feel for it. Because the next time you're on, we got to tighten this up a little better.
Oh, okay. Well, sorry about it. I guess, like I said, I've never done this before. So if I derailed you along the way, I'll take all the credit. Or all the blame, whatever you want to call it. I'll be responsible.
I got to find a way to promote this so that like some of your administration and teachers and kids' parents all, find out about the podcast.
You can.
And the first thing they'll see is that picture of us. And they'll be like, Pam. My word. You're a debutante from Tallahassee.
No, West Palm.
No, you're from Tallahassee now. You've been up there.
Yeah,
You've been there 30 years.
Huh?
You've been there 30 years. You're from Tallahassee.
Well, yeah, I'm a Florida girl. That's for sure. So, while we've been sitting here talking, my husband defrosted the freezer. Just a little side note there.
Is he bored? Like he can't go watch TV in the bedroom or something?
No, well, I'm too loud. So he's watching TV in the other room.
Yeah, you've never been one to be quiet.
That's not nice. Okay, I think I
No, I mean like you've never been at a loss for words.
No. Never.
Which was probably one of the reasons we actually, hung out and chatted a lot. You never at a loss for words. You were always quick-witted and could keep up with me, right?
Thank you. See, the worst part about it is my family, I try to be funny and they're like, Mom, that wasn't funny. But then when I don't try to be funny, they're like, you were so funny. So when I try, it kind of backfires. Do you ever find that? Or are you just naturally funny?
I don't know.
You don't know.
I'll have to think about that.
Okay.
But
I think you're funny.
well, I mean, here's the thing. A lot of things will come to me and I'll just blurt them out. Like, here's the thing. So I think I used to be funnier when I didn't have a filter, but I've had to have a filter. So it isn't, I have to kind of like craft the funniness to make sure it comes out properly and,
That it's appropriate,
yes, appropriate. Yes.
politically correct.
Yes. And that was a
Or
tough thing to do at
socially-
PBA. Being politically correct at PBA was not easy.
No.
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 Not when the orientation song ended with, and you must wear your proper underwear.
No, but I mean, you're so right about that. It didn't matter if you were male or female, white or black. It didn't make no. It was hard.
Yep. All about being proper.
That's right.
So here's what I want to do. So I've been trying to make a list, and I want to get together with my student government cabinet people, because I had to be reminded. This is how sad it was. I had to be reminded that one of the big things that was accomplished during my administration was making the school non-smoking. Do you remember that?
No. I guess now when I actually think about it, but that's a really terrible thing, isn't it? I mean,
What, that we had to do that back then?
Yeah.
But here's the thing. So, here's when we went through, our list of things that we wanted to accomplish at the beginning of the year. Of course, every year is have a dance on campus. And I had to say to them, look, you guys know there's not going to be a dance on campus.
It'll be off campus.
Well, but it couldn't be school sponsored. It couldn't be an official function.
That's true.
Because yes, there were dances. There was stuff that happened, but it couldn't be an official school function.
Mm-hmm.
And so I basically said to them, look, what do you want to spend your year working on? Do you want to accomplish something else and be known for that? Or do you want to be like every other student government that is known for not bringing a dance to campus? So we brought Coke machines and the no smoking policy, which I forget who was that reminded me that we were in the forefront of that, because it was not long after that, that the state of Florida went non-smoking indoors. And what are you doing? Are you having to shift because of defrosting?
Well, no, I wanted to look to see who was on your SGA cabinet. Were you all 4 years?
I was not president all 4 years. No.
What were you in 68 though?
No, I was 68. I was 1 year old. What are you?
No, not 68. 86. I'm sorry.
So 86. So my first year, I was freshman vice president. Hal Haller, I believe, was our class president. Sophomore year, I can't remember if I was president or not of my sophomore class. Junior year, I was elected president and ended up with a academic suspension. So I could not serve. See, look at you. Yeah. So I could not serve my first semester of junior year. And then I came back as vice president of legislation. They made up a position for me. Then my senior year, I was SGA president. And I believe my cabinet in my senior year, James Dean was my vice president. Babs Barr was my secretary. Cindy Coomjohn, I think that's how you say her name, was treasurer. And whatever the other position was, I believe Lawson Jolly.
You're right. Okay, so freshman year, Hal Holler or
Mhm.
Hall Holler. What a name.
Hal Haller.
Chris went to school with a guy named
The
Jasper.
third.
Yeah, the third, Jasper Jasperson. How cruel is that? Yeah, Lisa Johnson was your secretary.
Oh, Lisa Johnson. Yes. And Lisa, here's another thing. So Lisa was somebody that in high school, so I was a congressional intern and I had gone to Washington and I had gone to the capital, Florida, Tallahassee, for an event there. Lisa Johnson was the representative from her high school that I had met at one of those events. And then we met again at PBA and then she disappeared.
Oh, really? What happened?
I don't know.
Oh,
She disappeared. I didn't go looking for people.
oh. Oh, I just found a picture of Mike Mahan.
Okay, Mike Mahan, the
Oh,
chaplain.
but the chaplain was Lawson Jolly. I knew you already said that.
Yeah,
That's
Lawson
found
Jolly,
on page 85,
85 of the 89 yearbook.
86.
86. Okay,
Get it straight.
you know, 4 years, 30 something years ago.
Yeah, but I don't know why I only bought 1 year of the yearbooks because I don't have them all stashed away.
That's the only year you have.
I guess so.
Well, I know I have. I think I have all 4. I have to go find out.
Let me see who got awards.
What awards did we have?
For those were in the spring, like for did you ever remember Chris Hansen? Cute little short girl.
Probably.
You remember Janie Thomas? She was an SGA.
Yes, I remember Janie.
Remembers Janie.
Yep, she was.
Starlin. Do you remember Starlin? She music major. Black hair, played the piano.
No.
No. That's all right. Okay, so
I mean, I probably would if I saw their full name or saw their face and they looked kind of like they did back then.
yeah. And so typically, well, sometimes people look the same and then sometimes they look different. Do you remember Suzanne Adenolfi, or how do I say her name?
Suzanne? No.
You don't
I
remember
remember-
Suzanne?
Remember Suzette?
Oh, Suzette Duncan. No.
Okay. Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. She was my roommate with Sherry, Alan's stepsister.
Oh, yes. I know Sherry from Satellite Beach too. Right?
She was, wasn't she? That's what, yeah. And
She what? Why are you whispering?
checking your hearing to see if that's gone, but it isn't. You can still hear.
Yeah. I'm good.
Yeah. So I don't think I have any more. I think I only have 1 yearbook. So you got me beat. I guess you're going to have to look for them.
All right. So here's what we'll do.
Okay.
'Cause we have, you have now filibustered the podcast
Yeah.
successfully.
This is 2 hours and 11 minutes, friend.
Yes. So we are going to have to,
Ta-ta for now.
we're going to have to table some of these discussions,
Okay.
pull out yearbooks.
Okay.
I will put my research department into finding some of these people
Okay.
and either get them on a podcast solo or maybe come back with a panel discussion.
Yes. And other, I'll have to go listen to your other podcasts. I'll send you some emails. You send me some emails. And your cell phone number.
Yeah, that ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, well, I can always get a hold of Kim.
She is under strict orders to not give it out as well.
Maybe Uli, I don't know if Uli and Wendy are still listening.
I don't know, but we'll have to wait to see if they are. But they don't have it either. So nice try.
Oh, okay. Well, it can never. Oh, thanks to both of you for a few good laughs. There's more to come, Uli.
Yeah, they're probably laughing
Okay.
more at me not knowing stuff.
Not PBA grads. That's okay. That's all right.
It's all right. Apparently, my stories are universal.
Everybody knows about Uncle Marvin's stories. Okay, so we'll say goodbye.
Yes, we will.
Thank you for a wonderful time.
For those of you that have watched in the entirety or have listened in the entirety, I thank you so very much. And we will be doing this again.
We will. We will. Have a wonderful evening. Tell Kim hi for me. Next time I'd like her to be on it so I can see her in person.
Yeah, we're working on that because I've got a whole series of podcasts for her on the tech show.
Good.
And
Good.
then, we'll work her into the Uncle Marv show.
Good.
So
And look, you got to talk to Chris and to Shelby. That's pretty sweet.
that is true. That is
Yes.
true.
Yes.
So now your other one's going to be quite upset.
Well, she's working tonight, and she just moved to Panama City, so and she's not even on Facebook. She
What?
took down some of her social media. Yeah, it was getting to be too much. She said, "I don't miss it."
No. Is Shelby on the Facebook?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, okay. So remind Shelby that she needs to send me her information so I can send her this letter.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll share email or contacts so you
Okay.
can have it.
All right. We'll do that. Because one thing I'm good at is taking care of kids from other people that aren't mine.
That hey, we're all in this together. It takes a village to raise a child. So, well, Marvin, thank you for a delightful evening. God bless you and Kim. And until next time.
All right. And for those of you listening, thank you again for listening to the Uncle Marv podcast. And we wish you all a good evening, afternoon, whenever you listen to this. And until next time, holla.
Bye, Marvin. See you later, honey. Bye.
All right.